Another great way to showcase Parmigiano Reggiano is, of course, through a souffle. But I want to pair that with something quite classic that we do in Italy quite often, which is cheese and pear. I got some beautiful, nice and firm pear, so it's quite important that you do utilize some firm pear for this process. Get them nice and peeled, like I've done. Lay them down into a pretty large pot. A little bit of cinnamon sticks. I got a couple of cloves. I got some star anise, sugar. Goes straight on top of the pears. Then a little bit of lemon rind. Just use a peeler, you don't have to use a macroplane or grate it. Get yourself some decent Lambrusco, okay? Don't spend $1 million on it, but do not buy cheap and nasty. Get your pear nice and covered. That's about it. I'm folding a sheet of paper. I'm gonna fold it again. I'm gonna get a pair of scissors. You go pretty much the center of the pot, and you see where the end of the pot is. You go slightly wider, and then you just gently cut around, okay? Once we got there, I'm gonna make some little incision just to make some holes. The little holes over here will allow the steam to evaporate. So this goes and cover my pear, and that's it. So that would be step one. We're gonna go straight over a pretty intense heat until it comes up to the boil. Now we're gonna move into the making of the souffle. I'm gonna start with the custard part. I have some flour, which has been sifted. This has not heated yet. We're gonna turn this on in a minute. First, the flour goes in, and then I'm gonna start adding a little at a time some fresh milk. I'm gonna try to create a bit of a thick consistency here. And this very first step, it will help me to try to avoid to have any major lumps through my mix. So I'm gonna stir this up until it gets nice and smooth. Okay, the milk and flour combine really nice. Now I'm gonna turn the heat on. Meanwhile, because I can multitask, I want to show you these three amazing pieces of Parmigiano Reggiano that we got. We got an 80-month-old Parmigiano Reggiano, we got a 24-month-old, and we go as far as a 36-month-old. As I always say, minimum to be Parmigiano Reggiano has to be aged 12 months. The consortium will not approve it unless it's been aging for 12 months. Can you see the color variation within the rind? It's quite astonishing how all of that changes within the aging process. I'm gonna turn the heat off right now, and you can see a few more little lumps over here. So I want to stir this really, really quickly and try to break as many of those. We're gonna go in finally with my Parmigiano Reggiano. I went for the 24 months old, so I'm gonna remove it fully from the stove, and I'm just gonna simply keep stirring this up until the cheese is fully melted. We're gonna let this cool down, and then we're gonna go in with egg yolks. We're gonna fold one at a time. Now that all the egg yolks have been incorporated, we're gonna go into a bowl and straight in the fridge, and we're gonna let it cool for about half an hour. After we do that step, we're gonna whip up some egg whites to a nice stiff consistency. We're gonna fold the egg white in, and then we're gonna put in our mold and straight in the oven. Okay, all the egg whites have been folded through. It still has retained a lot of air, which is what we're looking for. I'm gonna get my ramekins, which they've been pre-buttered, dusted in flour. We're gonna fill them up about 3/4 of the way. So we're gonna make sure they're gonna have a nice flat surface so they can cook nice and evenly. I just checked my pears. The knives gently slide through from the bottom, so they're ready to go. I'm gonna remove that from the heat completely. And now, very, very delicate, I'm gonna pick up those beautiful pears. Just look at the color. And believe me, the smell of the Lambrusco, the spices is coming through. It just smells delicious. All of that lovely liquid, the Lambrusco, the sugar, all the spices, they're gonna be reduced down into a very thick glaze, which is gonna be quite sweet, obviously, and it's gonna taste fantastic. So I'm gonna return this to the heat. We're gonna allow this to reduce down probably another 5-10 minutes, and then we should be ready to put the whole dish together. My spice Lambrusco reduction is ready, and we already filtered it into a little container. We're gonna go back to the pear now real quick. So they look perfect. Get yourself a very nice sharp knife. I'm gonna cut this right in half. Then we're gonna cut the pear again in half. Then use the blade of a sharp knife and gently just run through from the top all the way to the center where the core is, and you can remove, obviously, the seeded part. What I like to do to make it look a little bit cooler, you flip them over, and then on a little bit on an angle, you start slicing very, very thin slice make a little bit of a rounded shape on the plate. What I mean by that is exactly this, okay? So grab them all up with your knife, go straight into your serving plate, okay? So it looks extra pretty. Now we're doing the second pair, nice and thin slices. Then I'm gonna grab it again with my knife, pour it just next to the other one. With my hand and my fingers, I'm gonna just make a nice little curvature. Look at these beautiful soufflés. We filled them up 3/4 the way, so they've grown probably 1/3 even higher than the top of this ramekin. And now, all there is left to do for me is just to go a little bit crazy with this beautiful syrup. And since we got it, why not? We're gonna go on top of the soufflé. And there it is, we got our Parmigiano Reggiano soufflé with our Lambrusco spice poached pear. It looks delicious. So I think over the 3 different recipes, we showcased something with a pasta dish, we did a beautiful soufflé, we did a crackers, different texture, different age of Parmigiano. If you can learn how to utilize the different age of the cheese depending on what you're cooking and what flavor profile you want to add, you're gonna be onto a winner next time you're gonna get yourself some Parmigiano Reggiano.